Good afternoon and good morning to Perth listeners, Western Australia. This is Jamie McNichol, your host for the Rocket Diaries, and I have an awesome guest to join us. This is kind of like a high school reunion, and we're going to talk about it because this wonderful gentleman went to the same high school as I did, many years apart, of course. But we're going to talk about not just his upbringing. We've got to talk about his musical career and everything in between. Without further ado, Martin Cilia. How you going, Martin?
Hey, thanks, Jamie. How you doing?
And how's Perth treating you, man? I know you're in Perth working at the moment.
Just got here for a day. It's raining. It's always sunny, but it's raining, and it's supposed to be raining all week. So I was going to go down to the beach today, and can't go out because of the rain.
Yeah, my mother lives in Perth still. She lives down at Thornley, for those people that want to know. Don't go and raid her house. Don't go and raid her house, people, because I don't live there anymore. I live in Adelaide. But, Perth is a wonderful place. Fremantle is my old stomping ground. But more importantly, I used to live up around near the Bassendean area when I moved to Perth from Sydney in 92. And I went to Morley Senior High School. You also went to Morley Senior High School back in the 70s. Just talk briefly about that.
Well, Morley High, I was there for 3 years. The day I turned 16, I was allowed to leave school. So I left school and I went professional with music. So I was playing in bands around Perth in all the Swan Hotel. There's a beer in Western Australia called Swan, or Swan Brewery. There used to be. And they had a whole series of hotels called Swan Hotels. So I used to do the rounds of that, playing in bands. That's how I started.
And also, you started playing guitar just before you went into high school, didn't you? Around about the age of 11, you started to
probably about 11. I'm not actually about 11, 12, because I know the time I was 13, I did my first paid gig.
Yeah, and you also created you played in your first band at Morley High School. Is that true?
Yeah, we had our first band at Morley High. That would have been it'd be the second year of Morley High, so that'd be 1972, I guess.
Yeah. Man, Morley High School, I mean, for those people that don't know, I was a little student prankster. I used to play pranks on people at school. No one got hurt, but more importantly, when I was in the science room, we did this experiment, and the experiment was to make a combustion type of experiment, and I put two corrosive elements together and created a bit of explosion. And to this day, there's a scorch mark still left on the top of the ceiling because I put braking fluid and chlorine fluoride together and just went up in the classroom.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that would do it. But I stayed back to scrub off what I can, but apparently it's still there. But yeah, I did get my grades, so whatnot. So I still went through. But you mentioned about the Swan Brewery, and like the Swan Brewery is no longer there. Well, the old Swan Brewery is there for visitation purposes, but the brewery itself is not actually on operation. I remember when I was in Perth, that was just a major place to go to see it operating and whatnot. And especially now, you can't even buy Swan Lager outside of Western Australia. You can only buy that beer inside Western Australia.
That's right, yes. Yeah. Things have changed.
It is. Well, while you were flourishing, you also played in a band called Fosterella. I just want to pronounce that band properly. I'm just looking at my notes here because you had a couple of years with that band and you had a number one hit. You just want to talk about that band.
Okay, this band was called Flying Fonzarellas, and it was a Perth phenomenon. It was quite regional and big to the Perth. We used to play in the big places in Perth, like the Raffles Hotel, the Overflow, the Morley Park Hotel, Floreat Hotel, Windsor, I think Windsor Hotel at the time, and a few others. But we did that for 3 years, and always sold out crowds. And then we released a few records, and we got to, so it was a regional band. We got to the #1 in the Perth charts. Probably, I'm guessing nationally, probably in the 30s or something in the charts, but definitely #1 in Perth. And that was it was just a regional band, and it went through the roof.
That's probably true too.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, like my first taste of music was Barry Manilow before I got into the rhythm and blues and the rock and whatnot. But then when I started to listen to, like you said, records, that's when I started to listen to like Little River Band, John Farnham, Mental as Anything, Party Boys, just to name a few, and it just expanded from there. And you're right, it is a generational thing, and that's when you look at it now. I just have a love-hate relationship with the mainstream radio, not really producing and the love they used to have with the Australian music. There's great talent here in Australia, but they refuse to play some of the material for whatever reason it is. It could be a PR thing that won't give them the exposure that some of the bands in your generation used to get. I know it's a different time era, but the radio stations generally won't play some of the Australian music now.
Well, I think it's always going to be the same. It's in the era when I was trying to, well, even now I'm releasing records. I don't expect to get played on the radio now. It's very, what I do, I have a very niche market where I'm sort of like, have a small scene, but a big following in a small scene.
Yeah.
With if you're trying to get on commercial radio or contemporary radio, you've got to have the backing of major companies. You've got to have PR. You've got to have PR behind you, and it takes money. Unless you get lucky and someone in some sort of power decides to promote it for whatever reason, you need big PR. I mean, you'd have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars for publicity and promotion to get commercially played and to get into. That's just the reality of it today. I don't know what the budgets are these days, but I can remember going to New York in the very early 90s. I went to Sony Music in New York. There was a whole floor the size of Grace Brothers or Myers, a whole floor dedicated to Bruce Springsteen and his new album. And that was their job for a whole year to promote that album. So you had that infrastructure. It was like, a lot of people, no expense spared. And that's what it takes to make Bruce Springsteen #1.
Yeah.
And thing about Perth is there's no real recording industry in Perth, which is why I left. There's only so far you can go. There's a limit. So that's one of the reasons I went to where the record companies are. If you want to be a recording artist, you have to be where the recording companies are, or record companies are. And such. You can sort of do a little bit from Perth, but and it's the same. You've got to be in the right place. But even with the internet and all that, touring helps. That's part of the promotion. But obviously at the stage we can't do touring like we used to. So it takes a big budget to actually crack it.
And you're right. You have to go where the market is, and that's why a lot of Australian bands do relocate overseas, because that's where the market is. And if they, like you said, if they've got some type of a brand that will support them behind their music, like a marketing brand or whatnot, they can expand it from there. And we've seen AC/DC do it when they went over to England, and we saw we saw it with INXS. They made it a bit of an outbreak over in the US and whatnot, and that's what many bands did. If they wanted to go where the market is and expand their territory, and I have no problem with that. If it's not here in Australia, find it somewhere. Where there's a will, there's a way. That's my philosophy.
From what I see is in Australia, if you stay in Australia, even if you have a few hits, you've got a lifespan of 3 years. I'm looking back, you basically have a lifespan of 3 years. AC/DC got out at the right time. They also had the experience and the knowledge of the Alberts record label and publishing behind them to help them out. So they had some guidance. But they also worked really hard. They toured and toured. That was their whole life. And so it paid off at the end, but it might not have. Some bands try that now, but it's even harder these days than it was, say, in the late 70s.
Oh, this leads me to the question: when did you start to work with the Atlantics? And also, I believe when you were with the Atlantics as well, you wrote a couple of songs that later became a PlayStation game. Just talk about that.
Yeah, well, with the Atlantics, what happened was this is in the 90s, and in the 90s, and I was in Sydney then, and I was playing at a venue called the Marble Bar, which is in the Hilton Hotel. I was doing Tuesday and Wednesday nights at the Marble Bar, playing in a band, and we used to play all sorts of songs. But it got to the stage where techno music was coming really big. And I thought, well, that's not my thing. I don't really know it, and it's a different generation. So I decided to make my own album because I couldn't buy any albums I liked, whatever. So I actually wrote my own album, booked a recording studio, recorded it. And after I did the demos, I ran into Bosco Bosnak, who was the original bass player in the Atlantics. And I sort of knew him, and then I said, "Look, I'm in the studio in a couple of weeks, and would you be interested in coming and playing bass on a few songs?" And I had a cassette in my pocket. I gave him a cassette. I said, "Have a listen, and if you like it, I'd love you to come and play." And he says, "What do you want my clunky old bass on your recordings for?" I said, "No, just have a listen. It'd be perfect for you." So a week or so later, I get a phone call. I go, "Hi," he goes, "It's Bosco here." So, "Hi, Bosco, how you going?" He goes, "Look, I don't want to play on your record." "Oh, okay, fair enough." He goes, "But would you be interested in joining the Atlantics?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "But yeah, only thing is we want to play your songs." So it turned out that what happened, we ended up going in the studio as the Atlantics, and it was an Atlantics album. And I wrote most of the songs on that album.
Yeah. And when did you first start? When you first started to write songs prior to the Atlantics? I mean, obviously you started to play guitar at a young age, but when did you start to learn to write songs as well?
I had written. I think the first song I ever played, I just made it. I didn't write. I used to make things up.
Yeah.
Just to call it. So I just make something up. But I wrote a song when I was about 14 that I forgot about. Found it on an old cassette. I've been doing some work with a band in Finland called the Beatmakers, and they've been going for 30 years or maybe more now. And occasionally I'll just play guitar on their album or write a song for them. Anyway, every second album they do a few vocal songs. So they asked me a few years ago, "Do you have any vocal songs?" And I thought, "Oh, well, yeah, but nothing suitable." And then I found this cassette, which was a little demo we did in a studio in Perth. We did it in like Saturday afternoon. And I wrote the song when I was about 14, and so I sent it to them, and they loved it, and they recorded it, and it got into the charts in Finland. But I would never have picked that up. I would never have guessed that song was anything. So you can't pick it,
No, that's amazing. That I was speaking to someone from Perth who's in a band called Vanadium BC, and he was saying after 25 years of not recording any new material, they found an old CD of theirs, original, over in South Africa, selling for $1,200.
Wow.
This is 25 years ago. They're still selling an album $1,200, and I was like, "Is that a bootleg?" So no, original copy. I'm going, man,
Wow.
who would have thought a band in Perth is making news overseas? They're selling like hotcakes over in.
You can't pick it. You just can't pick it.
Amazing. Now, just a bit fast forward from the Atlantics, you joined the mighty. I call it mighty because I love this band. Mental as anything. How did that come to play, and when did you started to get the call up to play in Mental as anything?
Okay, what happened with the Mentals? I knew the guys previously, known them for quite a while, so we knew each other. What happened was we did our last Atlantics tour, and we went to Europe, and I think we started in Athens and went all the way up to Finland and back down again. And then we came back to Australia, and I took my own band to America for a month to do my solo stuff. And then I get back to Australia. Atlantics, we have a meeting, and we decide that we're not going to play live anymore because a couple of other guys are older than me. They just wanted to finish while the band was still good. You know what I mean? And so we decided the band would not tour anymore. So I basically went home, and there's a message for me waiting for me saying mentals are looking for you.
Amazing. And I want to ask this question, and I don't want to go too deep. If you don't want to go too deep, don't go too deep. But did you and the other members of the band knew that Grady Smith was sick at that time before he passed away?
No, total surprise. I saw him the day before. We'd just come back from playing a festival down the coast, and we were due to start touring. We were doing a national tour starting that Thursday. He died on Tuesday or Monday night, really. But yeah, now he was reasonably fit, a bit overweight, like far as high blood pressure and stuff. But no, he was. We had a plan. We had a 10-year plan, and he went to doctors, and doctors said, "Oh no, you'll be fine for years, Tim." So we had a plan. We were that week that he passed away. We were going to start meeting Greedy. We're going to start recording demos for we had a new album planned of original songs. We were basically going to start working on that, and that was going to be my whole last year. That's what we were doing. We're doing a new album. It's coming out through Universal in October last year, and we were going to tour that. And then we were going to go to England and Europe. That's what our plan was. So there was no plan to slow down. I think if he knew something, he didn't say, but he basically had an aneurysm. It was all over very quickly. He had no chance.
Yeah.
It was a shock to everybody.
I remember seeing Mental Anything back at Gloucester Park Raceway for a New Year's Eve party. And it would have been around about 97, 98 New Year's Eve at Gloucester Park. It could have been 98, 99. Could have been one of those two. I remember Grady Smith had a bit of an asthma attack. And my mum being a nurse at the time, she was a couple of seconds from jumping on the stage trying to help. And because Grady Smith was in a lot of panic at that time. I remember him going a little bit blue in the face. He was wheezing and that. Was Grady Smith ever asthmatic to you? Because when I saw him, he was on the popper and everything.
Yeah, no, I never saw much of that. I mean, we spent a lot of time together. We did, according to management, I played 750 gigs next to him.
Yeah.
750. So I was standing next to him the whole time. He used to go for jogging in the morning. He would get up and go jogging for miles. So he was reasonably okay. I think he hurt his knees in the last month or two, so he slowed him down a bit. But he was pretty fit, fitter than what he looked. But never saw the asthma thing really, never. And we travelled around a lot. So I don't know what that was all about.
And what are the plans now for Mental Anything? Is it still moving forward, or just a hiatus, or what's happening with that now?
Well, the band, I don't think it's right for the band to play without. Well, Martin Plaza retired from the band a couple of years ago, and Greedy, obviously, what happened there. I don't think without the two main singers or two main people that were still in the band, I don't think it was right to carry on.
Yeah.
Maybe a one-off special or a tribute or something might be okay, but I don't think as an ongoing thing, it's really the thing to do.
Yeah. Has there ever been talked of a tribute for Greedy?
So again,
Have there ever been talked to do a tribute for Grady Smith and the band legacy?
Basically, what happened pretty well straight away. COVID came in, so it's really not been on the cards yet. It's too soon as well. Maybe a few years time.
Yeah. Now, I want to say thanks to Jay Dover as well for allowing this to happen. He asked you a question in a interview that you two conducted that you were surprised that you never thought you were going to be a solo artist. I want to ask, what led you become a solo artist? Because you've obviously been traveling and doing your great work that you always love, but what led you to be a solo artist as well?
Basically, I always like being in a band. I like the band thing, and I think a
Yeah.
band's strong. I think it's good. You know, if you get a good band, good people, it's stronger than individuals. And I just never wanted to be a solo artist. Never dawned on me. What happened was the Atlantics basically stopped recording in the mid 2000s, of 2006, 2007, I think it was. And so the band was taking a break. The record company said to me, "What would it take to get a solo album out of you?" And I just said, "Well, time and money." And so they said, "Okay, we'll get back to you." A week later, they called and said, "We've got the studio booked on some day, and Monday morning, 10 o'clock." They said by stumps on Friday, we want an album, and that's how it was done. So I had to come up with songs in a quite short period of time, and we just went and recorded. It was all done in 2 or 3 days. We had time left over, and I think by Wednesday night we're down the pub. It was all mixed. It was recorded and mixed. Everything recorded, done, finished.
That's the question that leads to this question. Do you find it more relaxing with that? Well, like you love to be in a band, but when you do your solo stuff, do you find it less pressure from outsiders looking in and from record labels? I mean, like you said, in a matter of no time, you got everything done. Rest to do a whole album compared to doing in a studio with a full band.
I think the difference. This is where it hit me. The solo artist thing. It's your name on the door. When we went to LA. We did our first night in LA, and we drive up to this gig in downtown LA, and looking up the sign had my name on it, tonight featuring. I'm going, oh, responsibility.
Yeah.
Can you? But you're responsible for everyone around you. So you're responsible for all your players, your crew, everyone. You've got to think, I've got to do a good job for the record company. I've got to take, everyone that's been behind you. There's only you. There's no one else. You have to be there. No one else can do this for you. But with a band, it's like everyone, you sort of hide behind each other, if you like. It's like, but when that's when it hit me when I saw the name on the door, in lights above this club, and I went, oh, okay, it's different now.
Yeah.
And also, when you walk into that room, everyone knows who you are. So everyone knows your name. Whereas in a band, oh, he's sort of the guy from the band. But then you walk into that room in a place you've never been before, everyone knows who you are. That's when I thought about it.
That's what, when I started recording and interview bands 10 years ago, that's what I saw about when I was getting, let's say, for instance, I was getting the bass player or the rhythm guitarist, but they weren't necessarily the front person of the band.
Yeah.
Many of my critics, which I don't listen to, say, Jamie, why are you talking to this person but not this person in the band? I said, I don't make the rules and the decision. It's still the person. But once they become a solo artist, well, they come out of the woodwork. Oh, he's awesome. Blah blah blah. And I'm saying,
yeah,
where were you when he was back in the band? You
right.
don't want to listen. You don't want to listen to him while he's in the band, but when he becomes his own person, you come out of the woodwork. I get that. I know exactly what you're talking about. That you've got more responsibility when you see your name on the door featuring Martin Cilia. You've got responsibility, and that is something that you should say. I worked so damn bloody hard for this, and here it is.
But also, even dealing with business, dealing with all that, they come to you and say, what do you want to do? In a band, you can talk to your band guys, figure it out together. They say, okay, this is the situation you want to do. We're going to fly here, we're going to drive, blah, blah, blah. Just whatever it could be, you've got to make decisions. Are we going to make the next gig in time? Are we going to, just what, even though you have people working with you, you're the one at the end of it, you know.
Yeah.
In a band, it's different.
Now, how are you coping with all this craziness that's going on at the moment? I mean, I know touring hasn't been too flat in the last 12 months, but how have you been coping personally yourself?
I actually don't mind it. I quite enjoyed the break. I haven't stopped since I was like 16 years old or 15 years old. I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
Um, I've done thousands and thousands of gigs and things. So what I've done this year, I've done some recording, got some new songs. I've got a whole lot of stuff put away for if I get a chance to release it. And then I just did some music for a short film out of America, a film called Run Girl Run. That's come out of there. So that was different again. But yeah, there's always stuff to keep me busy. So I quite enjoy just catching up on things.
Yeah. You're so, it might be a dumb question, but I don't think it is. You do miss playing overseas, don't you, at the moment? You miss traveling?
Miss?
Do you miss traveling overseas just for a holiday or whatever?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock not to be going somewhere after a couple of weeks of being home. Because even this year before lockdown, in January and February, I think it was basically March when it all stopped.
Yeah.
I'd already done 2 trips to Perth. I've been to Queensland. I've been to Melbourne a couple of times. So I've probably done 5 or 6 trips already by February. And all of a sudden that just stops. It just means you have more time in one place. And I had to decide whether I was going to stay in Sydney. That's where the studio is and that's where everything is. That's basically where I live. Yeah. Or I was going to stay in Perth. I've got family in Perth. So I decided to stay in Sydney and I could do some work. And that's what I did. But I'm about ready to travel now if we could. But it's not safe to go anywhere, especially overseas.
No, it doesn't.
Anywhere until next year at least.
At the very least, at the very earliest, to be next. Like, I just came back from a holiday up at Port Lincoln. I mean, I haven't left the state for at least since 2 years ago. I haven't left the state. I can't come to Perth due to the restrictions and whatnot. The border is still shut from between South Australia and Western Australia. My mum's panicking over the phone every time I talk to her. I said, Mum, we'll get through this. We'll get through this. And she's obviously lost a lot of money since the pandemic. I want to help her as much as I can. I only can do so much. I can't get there. But I can hear it in her voice how heartbroken it is and how frustrating my mother is coping. And with the McGowan government, we can say whatever we want, but I just don't agree with the way that his government is separating families. I mean, whatever opinion everyone have, whatever opinion, that's one thing. But to not being able to reunite with family for whatever reason due to his procedure, I just don't see it necessary. I mean, I can wear a mask. If I want to, if they wear a mask for 2.5 hours on the plane, I'll do it. If they say you've got to do this, I'll do it. But without all the other stuff, it's heartbreaking for my mother. It really is.
Like that, because I couldn't see my mother for a year and she's past the mid-80s now, and it's a bit tricky. But if everyone stayed still for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the virus can't travel on its own. It has to have people to move it around. So I can see what they're saying. Everyone should stay still. But if everyone did it for a short period of time, we'll be fine. But
it will be. Like I keep saying to my mother, we will get through this, Mum. Don't know when, but we will get through this, and it's just going to be a matter of time. I said to my mother, as I mentioned at the start of the show, I'm a prankster. And I said to my mother, Mum, if you drive to the border, I'll meet you at the border. We'll put out a picnic table right on the border. You sit on your side of the table, I'll sit on my side of the table, and we'll just pass the utensils around. Even the border control can come and have a meal too. That's the only way They can't say anything. It's on the border, so let's do it. We are definitely planning that. We are definitely planning that thing because I miss my mother. Yes, I'm a mama's boy. I have no problem saying that. I miss her.
We'll get it out. Things will change soon. I think things will get better soon.
It will. It will.
For travel
but
in
anyway,
Australia.
But you're originally like you come from Sydney. I come from Sydney originally too. I like the old places in Sydney as well, and some of the places are no longer there. But I remember seeing Mental Agenda thing up at Rudy Hill RSL Club and Parramatta Leeds Club back in the day as well. But I'd just like to ask you if there was one thing that you wanted to do in your career that you haven't yet achieved, what would that be?
One thing that I haven't done. Well, first thing is keep doing what I'm doing. That's just always a good thing to do. One thing that I haven't done. I guess, maybe getting a number one hit song that I've written would be a real good thing, writing a hit song.
Would you record a live album solo in the time future, or that takes too much time?
I record a live album, yeah, if I've got a touring band, yeah. I have thought about it. I've got plenty of songs, but, I do a lot of instrumental stuff, and instrumental songs don't get played on the radio very much.
They don't, unless you want to send it off to the shopping centres and play it in their toilets or escalators and all that.
Yeah, but I do get, played on international radio a reasonable amount, but it's very niche. It'd be great to get a song that's actually in the commercial element, on the commercial stations. That would be a great thing.
Yeah.
I've had a few bits and pieces, but nothing real big. So that would be a good, career thing to have.
That will be awesome because, like I mentioned before, I know it's a generational thing and technology has taken over, but when I used to get up early in the morning and listen to either talkback radio on AMF or listen to the top 40 on the weekend, it was the radio announcers back in the 80s. They were full of enjoyment. They were passionate and that. Now when I look at it, it's just like the same old robotic stuff. It's like, come on, grab the attention of the audience, get them to go and buy the album or push out the article that it's just like things now. It's like everything is so damn serious. Back in when I was a kid, we were having fun. We knew how to have fun. We knew how to go outside and play and make something. Now, everyone don't know how to. Most people don't know. The new generation don't know how to create things. I'm saying that in a nice way. I'm saying that in a nice way.
Everyone, DJs, and that, they all play safe. Everyone wants to keep their job. They all play safe.
Yeah.
There's no. Well, we don't see them. No rogues anymore like there used to be. Get out there and talk about a band they saw last night or whatever it was. Most people don't. On the commercial radio, you can't. I don't think. But yeah.
Well, that's why I loved Molly Meldrum when he had Countdown and then he went on to AA. He was so passionate about music, whether it was from Australia or overseas, and he had that pitch to sell it. Do yourself a favour, go and grab it. And if he didn't like it, he will. I remember when NXS brought out their Live Baby Live or Live Baby Live album. Yeah. He threw that. This is crap. I remember he throwing that because it wasn't a live album. But that's what I'm saying. I took some of what Molly Meldrum did and just put my own spin on it and say, be passionate, Jamie. Just be passionate. And that's why I love talking to you and many other people that I have over the last 10, 11 years. Because I'm so passionate about it. And hopefully direct some of the listeners to go and listen to your material, whether it's Metro Atlantic, the Atlantics, or even your solo stuff. Go and get some of those people over there. And hopefully they can thank you and I for listening to this show and going over there.
Well, let's find something new. Yeah, find something they wouldn't have found otherwise. Yeah.
Now I know Jay Dubber. Me and Jay Dubber, we've got a little bit of a little friendly thing going on. He wants to give me a slap over the back of the head. I'll give him one too when I meet him, and I hope he's doing right in Perth as well. Jay Dubber, he's a wonderful guy. Jay Dubber did say in the interview that you love taking photos of your food when you go on tour. That's your passion, like food is your passion.
No, that was a bit of a joke. So when we used to go
Okay.
have our dinner, so I just take a photo of whatever and just because it was funny, you know, and then I'd maybe take a backstage photo. I was trying to show people what people don't see when they at a gig or a concert, the bits they don't see before. I thought a friend of mine that said to me, he said, "Well, show us the stuff that we don't see." Because you know, everyone sees the band come on stage and all that, but all the backstage stuff, people are quite interested in that apparently. So I thought I just started taking photos around backstage and whatever we had having a dinner or whatever, and people got into that. It was just a bit of fun.
Yeah. Like I said, I just came back from Port Lincoln early in the week, and I love their seafood. Coming back to Adelaide, it just turned me off food for some reason. It's like all the food down here is absolutely garbage. I want to go back to Port Lincoln, but beautiful seafood up there, beautiful seafood, and that. But have you got any plans coming up this year? I know you got new material in the pipeline. Is there any plans of releasing that this year, maybe next year?
Well, what we'll do is this year there's an Atlantics album that we did in it was released January 2000, and we've remixed it and remastered it, and we have new artwork, and that's going to be released this year. So that's our next project.
Right.
That's almost ready to go, so that should be out soon. So we'll do the Atlantics, and it's got two tracks on there that have never been released before that we found on the original recordings we didn't use. So there's two new original tracks on there as well. So that's one written by me, one written by Jim, the other guitar player. So that's and with the original band. So that's good. So that should be out hopefully in the next few months.
That'll be awesome, and I'll be looking forward to getting my hands on it when I can. And obviously, when that comes out, you're more than welcome to come back on the show and talk about it, right. The process, how long, and all the nitty gritty stuff, how it became produced and whatnot. But Martin, if there's one last thing you'd like to say to the fans out there, man, what would you like to say to them?
Well, I've always had a good, friendly, positive fan base. You know, you see some people, especially now with the internet and all the Facebooks and all that people can comment on. I always have a really good group of people that follow me. So I thank them for doing that. It's very respectful and just a great bunch of people. And I really do appreciate that.
Well, you always seem a well down-to-earth gentleman. You're humble. You've always been polite to people. And more importantly, your passion that you have, music and otherwise, it really does show your output in life. And you only put back in what you take out of it, basically. And you should be held with high respect in return from people, because I always go with this philosophy, you know, do unto others as you would like them to do to you. And if you show them respect, they will give you the whole world in return. I mean, I don't expect $1 million from you, Martin, but you get my point. You get my point. But yeah. But I do want to say thank you for joining us, Martin, and I'm going to plug Jay Dubber later on tonight, his time when he comes back home from work. And many people that listen to this show, please stay tuned. This is going to be loaded up in later this week. I've got 2 other interviews I've got to load up as well. But thank you for all the patience from the last interview. It took me a whole week because I've been up at Port Lincoln and coming back home. I'm now home. It's up there, so go and check it out. And more importantly, where can they find you, Martin, on any websites on that?
martincilia.com, martincilia.com is the best place to start. I'm on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. All the iTunes, Apple Music, I think, everywhere. And interestingly, being in Adelaide, The record company that I'm signed with is actually based in Adelaide.
Okay. Which one's that one?
It's called Bombora Creative or Bombora. Website is bombora.net.au.
Right.
Bombora.net.au. That's so it's actually the Adelaide. My first solo album was recorded in Adelaide.
All right.
Mix Masters in the hills there. And I've done a lot of work at I've done a lot of work in Adelaide, actually. Quite a bit. Yeah.
I suppose you played at the Gogh plenty of times too. It's one of the best venues.
Never have.
Never have, geez.
I don't think I ever have. I've always been in Adelaide and played different places, but I'm pretty sure we've always missed that one for some reason.
Well, now that we've got border restrictions a bit loosened, everyone's moving to Adelaide for some reason. I don't know why. Everyone's moving here. So if you can put your name down, they've already reduced the limits of how many people they can have at a gig. Dancing is back on the menu, people. Okay. If you want to go to a gig, you can dance now. So, yeah, Martin, I think it's time for your call to make a call to the Gov to get people dancing again.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'll get there one day.
Yeah, you will. And I'll definitely be there with, I don't care if I've got to wear tingle bells on my shoes. I'll be there.
Excellent.
Yeah, because it's been over 12 months since I've been to a concert. Alex Cooper was the last concert I've been to, and then everything went completely down.
Cooper. Yeah. I think I saw Alex Cooper.
Yeah, Alex Cooper and Airborne and MC5. So that was, a bit different, but I love it. A little bit different. Right. But anyway, go and check Martin out. Go to all his social media platforms, and also go to Spotify. If you've got YouTube, go to YouTube. Go over there and check him out. And also get ready for the new material later this year. And when it comes out, we'll have Martin back on and we'll talk about that material. Martin, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been a pleasure. I know you're busy. And keep safe in Perth, man.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah.